As we approach to the end of day, I know it has been 2 long days, very tiring day. Again, the end here itself is very long. So the longest session of the day awaits you, which would be almost 3 hours long. Here, I would take a moment to welcome our speaker, Karthikeyan. Karthikeyan is a techie person with almost 6.5 years of experience into digital testing space. His passion has always been into R&D. He has almost developed 8 applications, and he has also filed a patent for one of his applications. He is an alma mater from BITS Pilani. Right now, Karthikeyan is working as a freelancer. Prior to that, he was associated with L&T. Karthikeyan would be conducting a lab session on accessibility testing. Karthikeyan, before we start, yesterday we had one session on accessibility testing with one of our speaker, Matei. That session was really an eye-opener for us that accessibility in itself is a very vast and huge topic. So she had given some insights earlier to us. Here, we are glad that you are already conducting a lab session for us. I I had already gone through the topic which you are going to cover, but I would before we start, I would like to know few brief points like why this accessibility lab session is important for us, like being into QA, how this holds an importance for us.
Yeah, hi Jyoti, and
Okay,
hi
hi.
everyone. So, unfortunately, I was not able to attend yesterday's session. I hope so. Like, I'll
No
get the
worries.
recording and I'll try to see to it. So
Mhm,
today's session, it's all about again accessibility, and why I'm talking about accessibility is uh, the main reason. Is like right now, government of India is trying to introduce the laws for accessibility, and if you take US, Europe, and other places, accessibility is already in place over there. But right now in India, it's going to shine and it's going to become as a law. So, as a testers from India, like we need to know more about it. So, that is something on.
so
And
compliance is one of the area, right? Even
yeah,
yesterday's compliance was one of the major topic. So I guess it is not only India, but across the globe. This has significant impact. You go to any country, whether it is the Pacific region or the Baltic region or the Atlantic, everywhere you will see this holds true, at least wherever we have government projects, right?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, not only government projects, like it can be any public facing applications.
Mm-hmm.
So, all the applications that is on internet will be tested for compliance. So it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be a huge market right now.
Okay. And also one last question before I hand over to you. Like,
Please.
while we are speaking about accessibility testing, does accessibility or uh, is accessibility testing also applicable to games?
Yeah, of course. There are gamers, like there are games where we used to do. We have tested for accessibility, where it needs to tell out the scores. And when it comes to not bigger games like PUBG and all, like we haven't tried it, but whenever
Mm-hmm.
it comes to a small HTML5 games that is on website, right? So those games like have seen people testing it for accessibility. And I'll let
Okay.
you know. When I'm just covering the slides, I'll just have noted this. So whenever whenever that content comes into it, right? So I haven't added it, but I'll just let you know, like why we need to test for the games too.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure. We will wait for your answer. And everyone, stay tuned for an exciting session of the day. And if you want to know more about Karthikeyan, you can visit the link which has been provided below. Over to you, Karthikeyan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jyoti. And we'll be expecting lots of questions from you. And just to answer your previous questions on the post sessions, just an add-on. So Python, let me share my screen and once let me know everyone can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Any Python-based frameworks, right? It can be integrated with Java because we'll be talking about integrations over here also. So it can
Mhm.
be integrated with your Java framework by converting into an exe and doing it, or else like you can use like an API. So there are libraries called Flask to do
Mhm.
it. And if you
Okay.
wanted to make it as a BDD driven, then there is I think so it's test PyTest BDD. So you can integrate wherever you wanted to integrate your BDD, right? So you can integrate PyTest BDD library and then integrate your test cases as a BDD function. So if you want to integrate your accessibility test cases also in a BDD format, you can use PyTest BDD, and that's the right
This is
library
nice
for doing it.
information.
Yeah. So
This is
thought
nice information. Yep.
we'll start it with the integration one so that everyone will be fine. Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Uh, so hi everyone, and today like I'm gonna talk about more of web accessibility, and today like I'll be covering many things, more of why accessibility is, like introduction to the accessibility and the laws and regulations, and who are all the people who wasn't compliant previously. The famous big shot logos will be shown over here, and what mistake they did it, which we should be testing it for and make for our clients and make sure they become a non-compliant. And we'll try to more understand about the type of disabilities that are, I mean, that we call. Uh, I mean, disabled people like who will be working for accessibility. So that one will be going on, and we'll be looking into WCAG. So those are all the test cases that we'll be testing for whenever it comes to accessibility. And finally, like I have few pointers and few tools recommendation of how you can integrate accessibility in your organization and what step needs to be done. So first, we'll try to understand like why accessibility and what are all the test cases, then how we can implement with it. And feel free to stop anywhere, anytime. We'll be happy to answer user doubts.
Yes, I would actually encourage, like, rather than having a monologue, we should have a dialogue with Karthikeyan. Ask as many as questions. This is a very, very, what you can say. We have sufficient time in this session, and we can take up questions as and when we have.
Yeah, cool. So yeah. I am a fun-loving guy, and so I would like to start with an activity. Can you close your eyes? Can you close your mouth and then try to speak? So how difficult it might be, right? So if you try it, it'll be like even more fun. And the same way, like, can you close your eyes and read something? Then also, like, it'll be difficult for us. And the another one is like, can you close your ears and listen to something? Then also, I mean, I know like it's not gonna make any sense right now. And can you close your hands and try to feel the touch of something? Then no, we can't do it. But if you are able to do all these things, like if you can close your mouth and then speak something, and if you can close your eyes and read something, and if you can close your ears and listen to something, and if you can close your hands and feel the touch of something, then we call it as an accessibility. So we have the blinds and other people, blind, deaf, dumb, and all those people, like I used to name them as specially abled. So what happens is this is the challenge which they are facing too. And what we want to do is like we have to make the content more accessible for them, and the quality of being able to reach the data, right? So all the data is like which you are able to see a normal person, and if you are able to showcase it to a specially abled person, then we call that as simple as accessibility. So when we talk about more about accessibility, right? So it becomes more challenging for the people with disabilities, and when we have lots of data around the internet, right? It's also making them to understand like what data that needs to be shown to them. So whenever, even in fact, like when we open a blog or something, we used to see lots of ads around the blogs, and we need to close it on multiple places to see the contents. So how we can make the right data reach to the specially able person is something like which we need to think more. And some of the common accessibility features which you might have seen is like text to speech, and then CC captioning, and then some keyboard shortcuts which you have seen. And more specifically, there are like assistive technologies and hardwares also available, which I'll be showing it to you on the upcoming slides. And accessibility is almost, I mean, also called as like A11. So you might have seen the words between A to Y is 11, and that's the reason we make accessibility as like A11Y. So that's a kind of a nickname like which we can make it. And you might ask the question like, why accessibility? So the first one is it's a reason. The first reason which I have added is with the love and care. So for the all specially abled people to be treated equally, right? So we just wanted to make all the things accessible for them, and that's the very most important reason which I used to say it. And the second one, if you just look at it, right? So there are like lots of use cases which I mean WCAG is also taking it out. So Marcus has lost his eyesight when he was just born itself, and whatever things which he's expecting, right? He wants the websites and apps to be incorporated with the screen reading software. So sometimes, like, we'll be using a screen reading software today, and whenever you're trying to read the contents, right, half of the contents won't be even conveyed on the screen reading. So if a person is blind, then they'll be missing lots of contents for them. And Bring is someone like who is deaf, and what challenge if a deaf person might be facing is whenever they are trying to look at the videos or contents, they have I mean, they have the captions that is on non-sync. So we need to, as a testers, also like we need to test if the captions are also in a sync, and is the videos having a caption, and if there is an audio only content, then also it should have a caption and other things. And when people are getting aged, right? So their vision, their hearing, and their ability to type and other things also are getting reduced. So we need to consider people above the age of 60 and above. They should be also considered into the specially able person, and we should be giving them the right data to navigate and other things. So these are the things like which we'll be focusing on. And the second more important reason is, uh, according to who, it says like 15% of the people in the world are almost disabled person. That is almost, I mean, 1 billion people around the world wide. If you keep even a 1 rupee profit for all these people, right, it's gonna be like pretty more for you guys, for our client and other people. So the software that I mean, the software which we have, it has a big market, because we have seen like lots of specially able people are educated, and they are willing to access the internet, but they are not able to. So that's the challenge which people around are looking for. And in a report, it states like in US alone, it's almost like 350 billion dollar profit internet users worth are. And the third one is the accessibility laws in the legislation. So all the government across the globe has a separate accessibility law. And I mean, if your client is working on US based, then you need to know about the US laws. And UK has a separate law, and India has a separate law, and other regions are also has a separate law. And I'll be taking you through the laws also. What are the laws sections and other things that we need to note it down. So whenever we are trying to debate with our client, right, we can tell them like, boss, if your website is not accessible, then you are going to be sued under this law. So that's the reason like we need to think more about the laws. And the other one is going to be like potential lawsuits. Like almost all the websites, like even the Fortune 500 companies, have not been like user friendly and accessible friendly. So what happens is like any specially able person can file a claim against that website, and uh, that might be a huge loss for the company too again. So lots of companies have lost money, and lots of people are getting I mean, fired again and again by many specially able people. So I'll be talking about those fun use cases also in the upcoming slides. And the most best reason is like accessibility is always for a good reason when it comes to the business. And the why, because like it builds like lots of a positive public relationship between you and across the globe. So it might be a normal people, or it might be the specially able people. And it also avoids the discrimination, and it's gonna be it can also like increase the brand value of the organization. And whenever the website is getting accessible, right, it directly boost the SEO. So SEO is nothing but your search engine optimization. So if a page is accessible, then that page will be getting listed on the top of pages. For example, according to the accessibility laws, it says every page should have a page title, page descriptions, and the keywords that are present on the page. So if a person is able to, give all these things on the website, then the website becomes more accessible. And what the search engines does is, right, it looks into the page's heading, description, and these keywords to rank on the search results. So when you make your website more accessible, it automatically boosts your SEO. So that's the correlation between your accessibility and the SEO. And it also improves the usability and the user satisfaction, of course, definitely, because all the content that people are looking for, right, it's going to be present on the websites, and it makes also your website more responsive. So that is a quick introduction which I can give over there. And let me jump to the laws. So, any questions so far? Uh, I hope so. It's gonna be a quite basic one, but uh,
I guess we are good right now.
cool. So, when it comes to the laws and regulations, I know like it's gonna be like Akshay Kumar standing in the court, and then we'll be talking about lots of law points. So that's gonna be like for on the couple of slides. But do note like whenever you have whichever region clients you have it at, like you can note it on. As I told you, like. The accessibility is spread across the globe. Like wherever, whichever country you take it, everyone has accessibility laws. They're separate ones, and some of the laws will be stating their own terms and conditions, and some of them will be referring to WCAG as their, route one. So the first one is going to be like when it comes to USA, United States of America. So they are the one like who almost kind of most initiated accessibility laws. And if you look at it, there are like four sections under United States of America where people will be looking into it whenever if a specially able person doesn't find a website more accessible, right? So they can file a case against that company in any of these four laws. So what are these laws states it? So section 508 is going to be something more that's related to the federal agencies, and this act will be like also it's for the general service administration, and it's going to be applied for all the government based websites and also for non-government and goods and accessories websites also. So and whenever the website is also on the development, maintenance, and any of the type, right? So those times also like these laws will be applicable. Let's say even if your website is on maintenance, then you should also put it into a stage like we are trying to improve the accessibility and put it on hold. And the other one is like Americans with disabilities. So they take this one as serious, like ADA. Almost all the cases in Americas are by ADA only. So they state like the employees in your organizations need to be treated equally and has to be given equal opportunity. So with that also like people also used to file a case against the client or the company. And the final one is, the next one is the section 504. So all the, this one is also like again, it deny, it talks about the habits and the life-changing things about the specially able persons. So we need to make sure like we help them and we help to work with them, and then we are giving the right opportunities to move with them also. And section 255, it's about the Telecommunication Act. So whatever we are trying to communicate with each other, that also needs to be communicated with a specially able person. So whenever it's an audio, video, those kind of contents, then also like we need to look into these things. So those things comes under the Telecommunication Act. And when it comes to UK and Europe based, there is only one law over there, like Equality Act. So the United Kingdom states like everyone needs to be treated equally, and whatever cases that might be coming under accessibility, right, that falls under the Equality Act of 2010. And the next one is going to be like when it comes to India, we have the rights of person with disabilities. So over here, we have a non-discrimination law that uh, will be coming under the Indian Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So they also state like all the Indian places and also the Indian websites needs to be more accessible. And if not accessible, again, like we can file a case. But till now, like I haven't seen any cases, that much of cases like coming up on India, because like these things, many people aren't aware of these cases, these sections. So that might be the reason. And the government of India is trying to boost these laws and create more and more awareness. And the other one is like the guideline for Indian government websites. So this also, Indian government has a separate guidelines, which is again referring to WCAG. So in case like if you are testing your website for WCAG, it automatically comes into the Indian government websites. So with that, what happens because of these laws, right? Whenever if the client is not making their website accessible, then what might be the problems that would have caused because of the law? So the first one is going to be the fired one is the Netflix. So Netflix was the very worst affected one when it comes to accessibility, because they have all the web contents and all the series like that, where many of the series are without captions during the when they started it, and their websites were also not accessible. So that's a reason, like I told you about that. The National Association of Deaf. So many of the deaf people have complained against Netflix, and they also had a huge loss against it. And the next one is going to be our biggest one, Amazon. So when it comes to Amazon, like lots of people, blind people especially, they weren't able to purchase the product in Amazon or place an order. So Amazon was also sued against by the Federation of Blind. So this was also a famous one which happened on 2007, where Amazon could not even where the people could not even complete the online uh, I mean ship, online purchase, right? Then people can file a case against it. So even right now, Amazon is still inaccessible in many of the places, but not sure, like no one has made a complaint again. So the next one is gonna be Nike. So over here also there were like dozens of fashion brands like Nike that weren't able to what to say, make their business or make their websites also a bit more accessible. And over here it was a low vision. So whenever low vision people comes, right, because of the color contrast ratios also, like people used to talk about it. So let's say when people with a color blinded person comes and uses your website, right? So that time also, if your website is not working fine, then also we can sue them out. So in terms of colors, everything data is we need to note it out. And this is one more guy called Five Guys. Not one more guy, like Five Guys. So they have been, sued like almost twice because like their web wasn't accessible in the middleware layer, and they weren't able to place the orders and other things. So the same reason, these guys were also sued like back to back. And finally, like Domino's, and Domino's also had to face this. And Domino's was trying to make their website accessible, and that time itself, their first version was accessible, and they were trying to revamp their website. And when they try to push their website and then make it accessible, so that time they got into the case. So it's like when before pushing your product to the market, you need to make your websites more accessible. So those are all the some of the key takeaways that I would like to say. And what might be your favorite takeaways? Like you guys can also let us know, and any experience which you guys also faced can just talk for a minute. So anyone, what do you think like which needs to be tested for the main accessible thing?
Guys, you can type your response in the chat box, or if someone wants to speak, you can raise your hand and then you can speak.
Yeah,
Okay,
cool. I hope
maybe.
so. Everyone is fine.
Fine, fine. We have
Good.
two questions which is related to standard itself. Maybe we can first go through these 4 points, which are the key takeaways, and we can take up the questions accordingly. Okay, I guess we have
We have one
one
hand.
person. Yes, Milind, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question, or you can
Yes,
share your response.
excellent session, Karthikeyan. Excellent session. I mean, I never thought that this topic would be coming up in today's session, but it's really good to hear somebody taking up accessibility as a topic and presenting so much details into it. Really amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Milan, for it. Like we have a lot more to come up, so stay
Yes,
tuned. Yeah,
sure, sure.
We have actual hands-on in this session, so we will see like what are the challenges and how do we actually have the testing approach if accessibility isn't a question. Okay, we have one more hand raise from Chintan. Chintan, do you have any points to share? uh,
Well, there is a confusion. I think I had asked one question, but I'll also share what I tried to do and will probably ask
mhm.
if permitted. So basically, I'm also trying to understand accessibility. It's again, as mentioned, I'm also focused on it. It is very well in demand. But what I fail to understand is there is ADA compliance, there is 508, 504. But somehow I'm not able to understand which one is applicable on the websites in particular, because 508, what I read is mainly around the agencies and governments. So it would be helpful for me to understand which one is really applicable and what sort of compliance or conformance standard does it refer to with regards to digital accessibility?
yeah, sure. Thanks, Chintan.
So
So all
Karthikeyan, yes, before proceeding, I would like to club two questions together. First question
okay.
would be, which standard is most widely accepted across the globe? Is it 508 or is it something else? Like we are referring to something. And another is what Chintan said just now.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of accessibility, right? So across globe, I mean, the first question is like across globe, are there any digital laws for it? No, we don't have it. So it's only country-wise laws that WCG has quoted out. So what happens is every country is dealing with their own accessibility laws, and there are no common standards. But across globe, what we do is like there is something called WCAG. So they try to maintain like as every country is trying to be accessible. So that's something like that people used to monitor. And when it comes to the sections, like again, as I told you, like there are no specific rules that states like the websites needs to be accessible. But when it comes to the deaf one and the Association for the Deaf Law and other cases, right? So people, whosoever people was inaccessible with the content, right? They just directly go with the particular law that is matching with it. So when it comes to 508, it also talks about the goods and services also. So let's say if you are trying to enter into a mall and the mall doesn't have a access for a wheelchair, then also you can file a case against them with 508. So these are all the generalized laws which people used to refer to it, but nothing specific for a digital accessible product, accessible compliance. But the government states like they need to follow the WCAG standards, but not a specific one, to be frank. It varies from the cases and it varies with the association. For example, I mean, uh, the one which we saw, Netflix was sued by deaf people, and then Amazon by blind. So they take their laws from their sections, like that talks about the blind and that talks about the deaf association, and then they go with the head. So nothing more specific, but
Okay.
can I mean just have to take care of these laws, note it down. Cool.
Okay. Uh, any point before we move ahead, or anyone wants to answer this four blank fill in the blanks which we have right now? Any key takeaways from web accessibility lawsuits? the same examples which we have been speaking right now: Amazon, Netflix, Nike, Domino's.
and Five Guys. So these are all like almost US based.
Yes, maybe. Karthik, you can move ahead.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So the key takeaways, which I can also say, is like always work with web accessible and don't be against it because you'll be almost sued. And be as much as like proactive. I mean, don't release your product in the website. In the web, move it to production and then test for accessibility. Because like Domino's faced that mistake. Like they moved their product to the production and then they were testing for accessibility and they were like sued at that point of time. So whenever you're trying to test for accessibility, right, be more proactive and more consistent and use the testing tools and fix the common basic problems on the accessibility, your colors and then your labels and other things, so that at least that will try to save your problem from getting fired from these lawsuits. So with that, I'll directly jump to the
So I have one more question,
yeah,
Karthikeyan. So the
please.
question is, do localization testing and accessibility testing go hand in hand?
Okay. It depends again. So when we do when we do the accessibility testing, right? So we can do it from the design stages itself. So it depends like how the organization is also doing it out. So uh,
So let us take an example of Amazon itself, right? It
yeah.
is catering needs across the globe,
Hmm,
and there is need of accessibility as well as this localization, right? Because
hmm,
there are countries wherein English is not widely accepted.
hmm.
It
So
can be Spain or Italy. Yes.
yeah. So what happens is again from the country level, they'll try to maintain. So let's say like whenever yeah, maybe you can finish your question and then I'll let you know.
No, no, you can go ahead.
Okay.
You got
Yeah.
the thread, right?
Yeah, I got the thread. So what happens is, right, so uh, whenever the product is across the globe, again, like when you need to test it locally, right? So you need to be compliant with the uh, that particular country's law. Because that's the place where you'll be sued. Like let's say if Amazon is on US and then if we are using the website on India, then they can't sue it over in India. Like we need to be they need to be compliant with the US one. But if you have a domain that's based out of in India and if you have an office in India, then you need to be compliant with the Indian version, Indian laws. So that's the one. And when it comes to the local one, almost all the countries, if you look at it, they'll be looking for the WCAG standard, and that is globally spread across. So almost all the cases, all the test cases will be covered inside, but few might be going in and out, like when it comes to the language and other things. Accessibility, again, these laws, right, again, it doesn't say like whenever we are trying to use the screen reader, right, it doesn't it doesn't speak out the contents on Hindi or any native languages. So that becomes a problem when it comes to India. So we need to make sure these things are getting fixed also when it comes to the local accessibility testing out.
Okay. Okay, thanks. We can
Yeah,
move ahead.
yeah, cool. So when we are trying to understand more about the disability, right? So and the assistive technologies, we need to know like what are all the disabilities that is being there. So one is the cognitive and the visual and auditory. So your hearing one and the motor, like when it comes to hands and other things, and then the speech. So as I told you, we used to call them specially abled. So when it comes to the cognitive ones, like people might be ADHD, so people might forget like how to complete the flow or how to complete the process. Whenever they might even forget like where is the login button or how to log in and other things. So there should be, and if there is a form, right, there should be a help option also kept next to it, and as much as like jargons and other things also should be avoided for better learning with these kind of uh, people out over there. And cognitive learning also, when it comes, right, it comes with people with mental health issues. So some people might be like too anxious, and if your website is not taking if your website is taking more time to load, then it might increase their anxious, and they might be even getting mood disorders. So even if that kind of cases comes, then we need to handle it out. So and memory, some things related to, as I told you about, right, the memory impairments, where with people with short-term memory, they don't know like how to process it, and there should be like keeping even a forget password, right? If they forget their password, then there should be a proper and secure way to do it. So these are all something like which we need to keep it in mind whenever we deal with cognitive kind of people, and whenever we deal with visual disabilities. So the visual disabilities will be ranging from almost like mild to moderate loss in the visionaries. So there are people with color blinded. So whenever you're trying to showcase your errors on red color, right? If the people is color blinded, they won't be even able to see that error. It will be completely blank for them. So they can't even spot such kind of colors. So uh, color blinded people, whenever you are trying to use red color mainly, like you need to remember about the color blinded people and low visionary people. So whenever there is a blur image and other things, right? So these I mean they also have a blur visionary. So you need to keep some I mean, accessible, I mean, tools where you can increase the font size and decrease the font size, so that will help them to see it out. And when it comes to blind, definitely, like they can't even see it. So our website has to be definitely completely accessible for them, for the screen recorders to talk it out, speak it out. And when it comes to the hearing, again, like completely hard of hearing will be like they can listen to only like 1 ear. I mean, one side of the ear they are able to hear, and the other one they might not have. And we need to consider people with complete deafness also. So whenever these things comes, right, whenever we are trying to play audios and other things, we need to make sure like they are in the proper level and they doesn't damage their ears also. And we need to keep the captions always whenever it's an audio only, and also a video one. And when it comes to the motor, so what happens is like people with complete paralysis, and people who might, some people might have been injured due to an accident just for temporarily, and their muscles would have broken. So these are all the peoples, whenever even they are trying to work on the website, right, it should work properly for them. So when it comes to motor, it's like people with hands, and then jaws issues and all those things comes into it over here. And when it comes to the speech, again, people when they are able to partially speak, and some people won't be completely, they'll be like muted, so they can't even say anything out. And so these people needs to be considered over here under the speech section. And then there are like not only people with disabilities, but also like people with low literacy rates, as I told you about people above 60 age has to be also be concluded. So people with low literacy rate, whenever they are trying to hit your website, are you able to guide them out? And people with low bandwidth, whenever their connections are I mean low bandwidth connections, right, if their network is too bad, then also your website should be responding back to them, at least with the basic contents, like without image and without the css and other things, because our website should not make them more frustrated. A good example can be like whenever we are trying to book our irctc Tatkal tickets, right? So if we are not able to do it, like we get frustrated every time, like whenever we are trying to book the tickets. So such kind of frustrations should also be removed from the websites, and it should at least give the proper data. So a page should not be, there is a law like the page should not be taking more than 5 seconds also to load it, which will be difficult when it comes to IRCTC, but they should give the proper information when it comes to the loading, and proper, at least some proper guidance when it comes to loading and other details. And we have to consider as a new user, when people are using the websites, how it's going to respond, and the other infrequent users when they are coming in, right? So those such kind of varieties also. And there are like lots of these situations, lots of kind of different user personas are there when it comes to the accessibility. So you need to consider each and every one in the user group whenever you're just thinking of accessibility. So that's the biggest one which I just wanted to convey over there. And when the user is unable to complete their business, it might, as I told you, like it will be resulting in the frustration and the loss of privacy and security for the user. Like they might be feeling, they weren't able to do it, and it also reduces the reputation of the organization and the revenue loss for the organization also. So we need to make sure whatever flow that we take it for accessibility testing, when we are testing manually, whatever aspects, whether you're going to test it with as a blind or as a deaf, then you should be able to complete it out. And when it comes to the assistive technologies, lots of people use different assistive technologies, depending upon their disability. So the various types of assistive technologies are like adaptive keyboards, the one which you are seeing it, right? So the blind people will be using it on the screen, where they can just feel it over there. What keys they are trying to enter and other things. And then sniff and puff is a switch. The girl over here is wearing over there, right? So whenever they breathe in, or whenever they try to breathe in and out, right? So based upon that, the click will be happening. And some kind of food switches, so people who doesn't have any hands, right? So they used to use food switches. So it's like, again, your car accelerator and clutch and that kind of button. So depending upon the number of clicks they make on the switch, the actions will be performed. And the head pointer, which you see it over here, so they try to touch the screen with the head pointer and then make the action accordingly. And there are like softwares that that helps us to navigate with the eye tracking. Like whenever they are trying to read based upon their eyeball movements, you might have seen it on iPhone and other places like PDF. They have implemented it. And electronic magnifiers, of course, by default, every website will be having it, and they can try to zoom in and zoom out the contents. But the major ones are like the screen reading softwares. So your website has to be easily going with the screen reading softwares, else it will be a bigger compliant. So that's the one which we'll be looking into today. So that creates the guidelines. What are all the things that your website has to be? What are the things that you need to do on the website to make it more working properly with the screen recorders and other things? So that creates
Yep.
the
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, please let me know.
Okay, so we have one question which is related to our topic before we move ahead. This question is from Sanjeev. So Sanjeev is asking, does this laws or rules impact security and other things, that is strong password requirements, and for such other features that may impact accessibility? Sanjeev, you may want to unmute yourself and ask the question. Or are we good?
So yes, Sanjeev, just to answer your questions, whenever it comes to the security, right? So, as I told you about forget passwords, if people are not able to get their passwords right, whenever they have a low literacy rate and a short-term memory, so then security reasons or security impact are also considered into it. And keeping a strong password and a weak password, uh, we should be able to give them an option uh, based upon their specially abled requirement. So, for example, if a person is not able to think a lot, then their passwords will be weak. So we should be showing it on the right side how strong your password is. So you, while setting the password right, you might have seen like it should have this character and whether it's weak, strong, and all those things. So intimating such kind of things is also a feature that can impact the accessibility. So that's a pretty good point also, Sanjeev. Thanks for it.
Thank you.
And
We can move ahead.
okay, so we have something from Chintan. So yeah, about the flash sales and the fastest finger and Tarkal booking, maybe people with disabilities may also have them. Yeah, true. So when it comes to the flash sales and other things, right? The government itself are saying the websites should not be a time bound, and if there is a time bound, then they need to I mean, intimate the time that is left on the screen. So that is also a compliance, to be frank. Thanks, Chintan. So what happens is, whenever your session is also getting timed out, right, you should be notified uh, for it. Like the session is almost timed out. So in terms of times also there are compliance. So whatever we talk about it, right? So that's also compliant based. Yeah, definitely. I'll read through and it's a good site. Okay, fine. Don't fine. Cool. I think so. We are good to go. Good.
Yes.
Good. So directly, I'll come to the point right now. So what are all the guidelines that we need to test for? And as a tester, what you should be focusing on is like, this is the Bible and this is the Bhagavad Gita and Quran, whatever you call, right? So this is the one that we need to look for is WCAG. So W3C Web Accessibility Initiative. So they have multiple segments and multiple guidelines, but the WCAG, like Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, is the main one. And about the authoring tools and the user agents for accessibility and the rich and the Aria label. So these are all the other guidelines that is present. About the authoring tools, like it might be talking about like whenever you're trying to do some narrations and other things, right? So what are the things that you need to do that comes under authoring? And when it talks about the user agents for the accessibility guidelines, it talks about your screen reading tools and the tools which we are using it, right? So the zoom in, zoom out. So how those tools also has to be performing. And Aria is something that has been recently, I mean, always been trending. So Aria helps is again a guideline like which helps the screen reading softwares to provide and to speak out the contents more. So we'll be doing more, we'll be looking at the test cases for of WCAG and what Aria is saying, and we'll have a hands-on on it. Cool. So when it comes to WCAG, we have, I mean, we had WCAG 1.0 and 2.0, and right now we have 2.1. So when we talk about WCAG, right, so there are like three levels: level A, level AA, and level AAA. So on WCAG 2.0, like we had 61 test cases under 12 guidelines, and right now that has been updated to 13 guidelines with 78 success criteria in WCAG 2.1 under the same levels: level A, level AA, and level AAA. And all these things, I mean, these are all like three categories: level A, AA, and level AAA. And apart from that, we also have few more principles, like your test case will be falling into this like called four principles. So one is the perceivable. So the information that we are presenting, right? So all these information has to be accessible by the speech to text software or by the zoom and zoom out software. So it talks about the presentations of the images, like how you are displaying it, how you are decorating it. So all those things are going to come into the perceivable test cases. And when it comes to the operable, right? So it talks about your keyboards and mouse, like how the inputs which you are going to give to the website, right? So those kind of test cases, like what might be the input, like how you're going to handle the inputs, like are there any session timeouts, like whenever, I mean, there should not be one statement is like whenever you're trying to give an input via keyboard, there should not be any timeout for the keystrokes. So people can take more time on it, and whenever they are trying to click it with a mouse, there should not be any overlapping objects. So those are all things that comes under an operable. So operable will be talking more about your inputs into the website. So perceivable is going to be talking about more of your display, and operable it's more about your inputs. And the third one will be an understanding. So are your website able to give the right information with respect to the navigation and with respect to the languages, like the native one, the native languages which you are having it, right? So are you able to understand it? So over here, I mean, few examples like which we can give us, like with respect to jargons and with respects to abbreviations. For example, one which we can say, right, we need drivers to run the automation test case. So we as testers, we know, like whenever I used to say a driver, it's for I mean, we refer to the Selenium one. But whenever a non-technical guy comes and like just listens to it, right, such a dumb might we might not call him like a dumb person, but if we listen to the sentence like a driver, then some people might think it might be a car driver too. Those things have happened when it comes to the understandable. So whatever words which we are using it, right? So we need to make sure the meaning has been properly described or combined over there. And when it comes to the robust, it talks about the variety, the browser and the media players and other, plugins which you are going to use it, right? So, for example, the browsers should, the media players should have a pass, play, and other buttons into it. So those things comes into the robust kind of test cases. So let's look into the detailed one. So as I told you, there are like almost 78 criterias that we need to be tested, and all again the 78 criterias will be divided into n number of test cases. I'll be giving you the list of all test cases. I'll just drop the link where you can refer to it, like all the test cases that has been categorized into level A, level AA, and level AAA, and also has been tagged as perceivable, operable, and understandable and robust. But let me take some basic test cases which will be easier for us to test today, and then we'll do a hands-on around it also. So the first one is perceivable. So as I told you, perceivable, it talks about the decorations and about the presentations which we show it. So let's say whenever we are trying to have a website that has a nav bar, right? Navigation. So the navigation bars needs to be presented like saying like it has a navigation around it. And whenever you're trying to show some max calculations, let's say like we say 6 4 by something like is equal to 1.5. So then the screen reading softwares cannot say like about the mathematical equations and other things. So we should give an Aria label over there and saying like 6 divided by 4 is equal to 1.5. So we need to convert that mathematical expressions and figures also into a understandable English format. So that's the non-content or non-text content. Under level A, perceivable comes in. And the level AA, it talks about the user interface components and the graphic components. So a web page that has a dark or a light, dark color background and the light text and links, right? So whenever you try to focus on any link, you might have seen that link would have been either getting highlighted or getting underlined and all those things. So whatever test cases which we are testing it for the links, right? So it might be for even buttons and other input forms also. So whenever you are trying to click the input, uh, I mean input field, right? You might have noticed that the input border of the input box, right? It's getting changed and it's setting to focus. So that means like you're trying to click over there and you're trying to, your cursor is over there and you're trying to fill it. So such kind of test cases comes under this. And then your, of course, your color contrast. So whenever it comes to an icons and other things, your color contrast has to be in the ratio of 3:1. I'll show you like how to test for the color contrast also. Like there are APIs and there are tools to test the color contrast ratio, and this is the major one that we need to do it also. So whenever you are trying to even design your website, you need to set the standards color like which you will be using it. For example, Facebook goes with a blue color with a white one. So similarly, like we need to decide like how the color patterns and how the color schemes are going to be for your website right from the design stage itself, and that might help us a lot. And the third one is going to be visual representations. So whatever background colors which you are having it, right? So again, like those blocks needs to be a bit more those blocks, right? So that should not be specified, because what happens is like there are tools that changes the background color. For example, Facebook uses a white with blue color. So Facebook would not, Facebook hasn't given the background color as white. The browser takes the default color and they go with it. So there are like tools where if some people aren't able to see the colors, right? So there are like tools that can change the background colors and font colors. If we specify it directly on the CSS, then the browser renders on that particular one, and it will be difficult for the people to visually read out those contents. So these are all some things like which will be testing it under perceivable. And then when it comes to the operable, right? So the first one will be the page title. So the page has to be titled properly, so that we can know like what tab we are in, and whenever we are trying to change the tabs, the title should be also something more related to it, so that I mean the user can navigate on the tabs. So let's say like when you try to click on a button and a new tab opens on next window, right, adjacent to the current tab, then they should be able to know like, okay, there is a tab that has been more opened, and they should, and that tab should also have a different title. So those kind of page, even on the page titles we used to do it. And this also helps on the SEO, like depending upon the page title also the Google SEO ranks. So the right page title, page description, and all those things will come over here. And then the page headings and labels. So whenever we talk about the page headings, it has to be on a higher font to a lower fonts. For example, if your heading is on H1, then it should go from H2 H3. For example, like H1 is the biggest font size, and then it goes from H1 to H6. So the next one, whenever it's getting whenever we are just trying to go for the subdivisions, right? So the size should be reducing it, and so that we can clearly see the headings. And one more thing which we also look into is like all the forms, like all the input fields should be marked as required. So the word required should be used over there and not asterisks, because asterisks also will not be read out in multiple screen reading tools. So they should be mentioning it as required in the placeholder, or or somewhere next to the label in a font below the input box. So these are all something like which we can again test for. And the level AAA, as I told you, like the keyboard exceptions. So there should not be any specific timings for the individual keystrokes. So let's say like I mean, handling session times out, session timeout also comes into this. So whenever they are trying to fill a form or a Tatkal ticket, right? So if it's gonna be session, if the session is gonna time out, then they need to be intimated like the session is going to get timed out. And for filling any particular, I mean, for a particular uh, input field, right? There should not be any timeout also kept. For example, like if they are trying to whenever some kind of autofills, right? So it people used to type and then the suggestion used to come. So those places also like might be failing over here. So we need to give proper timeout for the autofill suggestions and other things also. Whenever it comes to the keystrokes. And understanding the page language, so this is comes to understandable. So are the people able to understand the contents that is in the page? So for that, what the very first thing which we need to do is, right, the complete page has to be defined what language the contents are in. So for example, if they are using French, it should be given with FI. If they are using Hindi, then it should be used HI. So that's an ISO standard. So they need to be noting it down, so that the screen reading software also looks into those contents, and then if their screen reading software is able to speak out those contents, then it speaks out, or else it moves out. So, and not only the overall page, but also the segments. Like for example, like your page is on completely English, and somewhere you have added some Danish, and or else a Hindi or any other language, then you need to mention that particular block is on this particular language. So wherever the language is changing, you need to mention the language over there with the language attributes. So that comes to the language of paths. So that's a test case. And the final one is, as I told you, the abbreviations. So this is a level AAA test case where all the abbreviations needs to be expanded, and the words which we are using, for example, live and live. So both has the same spelling. So we need to choose the words properly also. So those words, using such words also, if it's causing a problem, then we need to decide with the proper words and proper abbreviations. And WCG doesn't say like you should not be using abbreviations. What they are trying to say is like if you are using an abbreviation, then you should be uh, linking that abbreviation to a proper definition to it. So that way, like people who doesn't even know that abbreviation, right? They can like click on that link and then see what the abbreviation is also. So that's another test case. So wherever you find an abbreviation without a link, or that abbreviation hasn't been explained on that particular page, then you can directly fail that test case. And the next one is going to be like almost the robust one, where we need to mention the name, role, and the value, like what is that particular box is for. So as I told you, like if you have a pop-up and that has a close button, right? People would have coded like this with an X mark. So the X will be on a bigger font, and they click on it and it gets closed. And when you go with the screen reading recorder, so we'll be doing this on the activity hands-on. So without this Aria label closed, right? When you're trying to read it, the screen reader says like reads out this as an X, but not as a close button. Even though if you would have mentioned the class as a close button, the screen reading says it as an X. So you have to label this as like Aria label equal to close. Then it reads whenever you cross that particular button, right? It reads out saying like it's a close button. So that is something like which you need to talk about in terms of the contents. Like whenever you're trying to show an alert, you need to mention it as an alert, and pop-ups and labels. So all these things needs to be displayed. For example, about your what to say, disabled elements, hidden elements, and other things also. So yeah, as I told you about the status messages, whenever we are trying to show any status message, then that needs to be written with the role equal to status or Aria label equal to status. So whatever might be the state of the website, like whenever you are trying to add new contents like an alert or some status message notifications, so those things has to be notified with proper roles, and if not also we can we can fail for those kind of test cases. So these are all some quick around test cases like which we will be testing it today with the screen reading software with Aria. So Aria is nothing but an accessible rich internet application. So they help in better understanding of the what to say the internet applications, right? So the web applications. So they help they define the standards, like where you can define the label and you can define the what to say hidden elements and other things over here. And they'll be able to they try to enhance the betterment of the screen reading software, the use for the screen reading softwares and other things to keep it more simple. So when it comes to Aria, like we have multiple things, three things, like as I told you, like rules, properties, and states. So what does rules state about? So let's say like you have a form, then you're trying to search something over there from the form, then you need to mention that form is for like a search. And whatever let's say when you are trying to click a button also, then the HTML rules should not be duplicated on the arias, just to avoid it will be read out multiple times. So whatever the job, whatever functionality which you are trying to do it on the form or on any other activity, that needs to be defined over there. So the next one is going to be the properties. So the property is going to be the like kind of a pop-up, or is it an alert and other things. And the state, it talks about what is the current state, like is it hidden or is it disabled. So these are all the things which will be coming under the states. So three things are like role, property, like how is it, like is it going to be a pop-up, or is it a table, or is it is it an alert. So all these things comes under property. And the state talks about the um, what to say, the is it disabled or is it visible or not. So all those things comes under the states. So with that, few more examples which I can give it, like like Aria required. So if the element is required or not, that also talks about the state. Like whenever we are trying to fill the forms, right, we have to mention like the Aria label is equal to required, so that the screen reading software also says like, okay, this is a required element. And the role of the radio buttons also, like the radio group, so that like all the options will be grouped, like gender with as male and female, so that we give the role as it's a radio button, so that the options will be easier over there. And then the color contrast ratios. So Aria also states about the Aria in the WCAG They mostly talk about the color contrast ratios also. So the ratios is nothing but it. I mean, it talks about the hexa value that will be divided by the other. I mean, your background color and the and the current color of the font that will be divided and seen like what is the ratio of it. For example, if it's white to white, then it's like the white value divided by white value, then it will be 1:1. So we can't even see such kind of fonts. So that will be blurred out. So we are going to test for these things also today. And whenever black is to white, so it's 21:1. So that has a bigger ratio. So definitely it will be getting passed. So some of the color ratios which we have given down, which I have given down below. And what you might be asking, like, what might be the minimum criteria which we need to test for is something the color contrast ratio has to be like 4.5:1. Then we can pass those test cases for color contrast. And if it's failing, then that needs to be going on. And also, it talks with respect to the sizes also. So it varies with respect to the size. Like when it comes to large text, the ratio can be 3:1 and for smaller text has a different ratio ability. So I'll be showing all the ratios on the demo too. I mean on the hands-on. So when the color contrast ratios are also enhanced, like what might be the maximum ones, or also like 4 point, I mean 4.5:1, and might require like 7:1 for a normal text, and 4.5:1 for a larger text when it comes to the enhanced version for the success criteria for the AAA standard. And whenever we are just testing the color contrast ratios for a non-text, then all the colors needs to be tested. For example, this icon which we have it over here is right. So the white one should be tested with the red as the background, and the red has to be tested with the gray as the background. So wherever it gets failed, then we need to mark it as a failed one. So all the colors needs to be compatible. So we can't test the white with the gray. So the white has to go with the red, and the red has to go with the gray one. So those are all the ways like which we'll be testing it for the color contrast. And with that, like, don't worry, like, I mean, the good thing is the theory part is over. So we'll be just directly jumping into the hands-on completely henceforth. And finally, we'll talk about like how to implement accessibility in your organization, just few tips and tricks and some tools recommendations. So any
Yes,
questions?
yes, Karthik, that's what I was about to say. That let us pause for a moment, ask if there are any questions, because we went through many principles here. And if someone has any questions, they can ask or pose their questions. Karthik can take up and answer your questions. Okay, I guess if we do not have questions, we can move ahead to the lab session.
Okay, it's all good then.
Yes.
Cool. So let me I mean post some URLs so people can install it. Just 1 second.
Karthikeyan, we have a question from Chintan. He's asking, are there any guidelines for mobile accessibility testing? Very
Uh,
good question.
Good. So mobile accessibility testing again comes under WCAG. So over there also these criteria will be met over there, and it has also separate guidelines since the way whether you're going to use an Aria or I mean whether you're going to use an Android or iOS, right? So I mean we'll be testing it against the screen reading tools from the mobile. Are we able to read out the apps? So what we majorly do when it comes to the mobile accessibility is we'll be asking the blind persons to book a cab in Ola. So are they able to do it? So such kind of testing scenarios which we used to do it when it comes to the mobile and guidelines. All these color contrast ratios and whatever which we are seeing it over there is applicable for mobiles also. So the colors and everything which we are going to test it will be applicable for the mobile accessibility testings. Good.
We can move ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, you're welcome. So I'm just giving you the links as of now. So this is the color contrast analyzer. So some are plugins. So this is a website where we can directly testing it. And these two are plugins that we need to install on the Chrome. So which we'll be starting with this, and then we'll go ahead one by one. So first we'll be testing it for. So let me open Wave, and then so Wave is again one of the famous tool which is used for accessibility testing, and you can look for all the test cases over here on this particular link. Let me go with it. So these are all the links. So as I told you, right? So all the test cases, like under perceivable, operable. So all the guidelines and all the test cases, like when it comes to enough time, like do we have a pause, stop, hide? So there are multiple. I mean, on this session, like I won't be able to cover all these things. So I just picked up few and we'll be testing up. So you can refer to this list for much more details. And let me jump into Wave. So testing is really simple and enjoyable when it comes to accessibility testing. And I'll be talking about much more funny things like which we used to do it also. So this is Wave. So what happens is all you just need to do is like Wave helps us to test for the basic standards like your level A and perceivable and operable cases and the font size and the hierarchies. Like as I told you, right? So it has to be a H1 and below H1 it has to be a H2. So the decrease in the font size. So for those things, Wave helps us in identifying it. So Wave can test only one page at a time, and there are like other tools which is available in the market that can run across your websites completely and then helps you to test. So let's take Facebook today for testing it. So let me hit on the report. So that's it. It's as simple as this, and the wave is running right now, and then you can able to see the report. So you remember, as I told you, like every page has to be given in language, and you can see this particular person, right? And you can refer to the code. They have given the language over here as LAN, so this gets passed, and they don't have an heading over here, so it has been marked as a warning. So you can see the warnings and alerts over here, and the color contrast errors, and some of the features which they have added, like for in terms of the Aria label and the structural elements and the errors. So there are like two errors which you can also see it. So let me go with it. So the major errors are with respect to the very low color contrast. So they have, if you would have seen this, right? So by default, look at the brightness and the illumination, like which these contents are providing it. And when you compare with this color of Facebook and this one, right? So this is not on a proper color contrast ratio, and that's the reason it's getting failed over there, these two. And you can check it over here for all the details, like what are all the missing. So there are like missing alt text for these things. So when we try to read out via the screen reading software, it's a link. Again, it should, whenever it's a link, there is one more criteria which WCAG states is like, if you are redirecting inside your website itself, then it's fine. If you are redirecting it outside your domain URL, then you need to notify the user a pop-up saying like you're going out of the I mean you're trying to redirect to a other website, so is it fine? So such kind of testings will be also happening on the link. So I'm trying to add on as many test cases just for your understanding, so that it will be more easier as much as information. And these are all the color contrast ratios which you can see over here. And there are like 7 alerts like missing heading level, and then access keys, and then the features like all text it's present, so it got passed. And then the structures, like how is the structure hierarchy, like it has a heading h2, and then below this they have the unordered list, and they have the aria labels defined whenever they have it over here. And all the references will be listed down when you just look into the icons. There'll be like the infos, right? So you'll be able to see it. So once you click on this, this talks about what does mean and what it does and what is the guideline that is referring to. So this heading has been referring to level A and level AA. So you can check on it, and the reference gets updated whenever you want it. I mean, whenever you click on it. And you can read the references, and they also have given the guidelines, what is the corresponding guidelines that the test case has been passed and failed. So very low contrast, and you can see like it got failed on the level AA contrast ratio guidelines in standard. And we do also have the structure, like how the page has been structured. And then again, you can test for the color contrast, where I'll be showing this to you separately also. So I'll give, let me give you like 5 minutes time. Like you can test for the favorite URL of your choice, and then let me know if you have any questions, and then I'll jump on to the next tool, another activity. So this is something without the CSS, how your website will be looking into it. So you have the unordered list, and wherever you want, they will be showing you the, sorry, by mistake, I just clicked on the link. So wherever you want, you can see the code also, proper code that has been linked to it will be displayed. So any questions, and let me know if everyone are able to run this, then we'll go ahead with the next one. Guys, like, are you able to open Wave, and then are you guys able to generate a report and see like what are all the errors?
I have opened. I'm just analyzing.
Okay. If someone wants to share their screen and then I mean show it also, like I'll be happy to I mean describe if there are any new errors. And you can also see the guidelines I mean next to it, like whenever you click on the error, go to the reference and you'll be able to see the guidelines. So no need to remember all these guidelines too, like we can pass it or fail it like based upon these guidelines. But the major challenge is the coverage. So whenever you want to do I mean, whenever you want to pick up the test case and then do it as a coverage, right, for a bigger one, then we need to know about these things. So that's the reason I also, I mean, try to learn about these guidelines. It'll be always
Right.
good. So
Anyone wants to take the risk and share the screen?
it's completely fine. Let me do it for one more website. So I'll do it for
If you want,
Amazon.
I'll share my screen. I have
Yeah,
already
we'll be happy.
things ready. Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay,
LinkedIn.
cool. Yes.
Oh, LinkedIn also has 27 errors. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, as you can scroll down, right, you can see the headings are marked as something.
Right.
And Aria label is missing over there for the button. So if they are able to get started, right? So that's a link. So it should have a proper Aria label described.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason it got failed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So here
And
error. If I go to details, so language errors is what is missing. Empty headings, broken ARIA reference, fine. Very low
very low
contrast.
contrast. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And it's easy, right?
Right.
I'm
It's quite
pointing out. Good.
good.
Cool then. So
Back to you. I'll stop sharing.
good. So this is from Wave. So Wave, I mean, is the easiest tool to do the testing whenever. Let me know if
We
everyone can. We
wait.
have a
We
question.
have a good suggestion basically. So Jeevan is saying that we can do accessibility test for our ATA GTR website.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe Wave is already done, but we have two or three more
Yeah,
tools which can be assessed, and we
definitely.
can take ATA GTR website.
Yeah, cool. So that's a good one. Nice. Thank you for it.
Thanks,
So
Jeevan.
let me know once everyone can see my screen and good to go.
Yes. we can see.
So the next one is
Hey,
Google. Like,
one more thing. Sorry.
yeah.
Tejasvi, I guess you have raised your hand, and do you have any question?
Yes, Jyoti. So on LinkedIn website, there was H1 written, for the heading. So, like I was trying to understand what was the error. I mean, what was missing? Why there was that label?
Yeah, Karthikeyan. H1 error on LinkedIn.
Hey Karthik, it seems to be like you're on mute.
Sorry.
Right.
Sorry. So what I was saying is
Yeah, if you
like,
can just repeat Karthik, and Jyoti will
definitely,
be
definitely,
back
definitely.
in a minute. She's facing some technical issue. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So what I was saying is like the H1 heading, right? So uh, it's actually this error. So what happens is your headings, your page titles, or any paragraph titles, and all those things has to be on H1. And if you define in H1, then something the contents below the H1s, right? So that needs to be on the lesser size of the H1. For example, if you define your page as an H2 as your heading, then below H2 it should be only of the sizes like H3, H4, H5, H6. So something like this. So this is a past one, and if I go and keep my H1 below H3, so if you find a hierarchy like this, like you have in heading 3 and inside heading you have in heading 2, inside of this size of 2 size, and then below that you have 3, and inside 3 if you find something 1, right, then we have to fill it. Either these two has to be clubbed into a different div, and then this one has to be come out separate. So the contents inside the website, right, it has to follow the sizing order. So that is the H1 and H2. So your pass condition will be something like this if it's following this order, and your fail condition is something this, like this fails because inside 3, after 3, if you get in bigger size font, then it's failed. But this can be passed like if you are trying to break it. So imagine like these two are on a different, these two are different contents. So this is one content, and right now you have a heading 1, and if you look at it below heading 1, it's only 4, 5, 6. So now this will be passed and this will be passed. So that's the hierarchy structural test which will be happening from the WCAG. I hope so that answered your question.
Yes, Karthikeyan.
Tejas.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
And was there any other question?
Yes, we have another question from Chintan. Chintan, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yep, thank you. So in our first example with Facebook login page itself, I noticed an alert related to access key, which I suppose it's a warning, but if you could help me understand what does it mean and what is the importance of it?
Which one? Facebook. Okay, let me do it. So alerts and warnings are something like this. What they are saying is there are some guidelines that comes in WCAG. Some are like mandatory and some are not mandatory. So like over here, the very first one is they are saying like every page should have a title that is on the H1 size. So if I just look into the reference, right? So if you see over here, so the page should be starting with a page heading with H1 should be present nearly on all the pages. So since there was no H1 that is present on this page, no heading, so it has been showed as an alert, but it's passing the conditions. I mean, the rest of the test cases are passing. So that has been showed as an alert. Alert in the sense like kind of a warning errors. So these are all. So let me look at other warnings. So missing H1 and accessible keys. So let me check. Oh, what was this? So they have mentioned some accessible keys as 8. These things also should not be this much blank. So leaving something as blank or leaving something with inappropriate contents, right? So those things will be also a warning. So let's say you have an image and every image has an alt text also. So if you leave that alt text as a blank, then also those things will be failed. So will be shown in the warning. So I hope so that helped you to answer it. So alerts are nothing but your warnings that will get. I mean that will be shown for better recommendation and better fix the page should be having it. If it's nothing but even if it's getting pass or fail, it doesn't matter. But these things, if it's on the page, then it will be something well and good. So they do have mentioned an value called 8, but that 8 might not be creating a meaning over there. So that's a reason it wasn't able to show it. And people are one more good example which I can tell you is uh, okay. Uh, so whenever we declare the image tag and we have the source attribute where I'll be mentioning the source. I have something called image.png over here. So img.png and then I'm closing the page. So what happens is that from the developer standpoint, if they look at this page, right, they can see the image. Yeah, they can see the image. But if a blind person is reading it, then they won't be able to understand what this image is. So what we try to do is we say an alt text equal to something like this is company logo. We'll be doing this in the activity too. And when we try to use a screen recorder, it won't be displayed over there. But when we try to use a screen recorder, I mean, which I've given you, it will read out this is a company logo. So this test case is getting passed. But when it comes to a warning is, warning or an alert is sometimes when this has been left as a blank, and people are trying to use also AI over here by doing an image analysis like with Google Lens and other things, what this image is about, and are they have given a relevant alt text to it. So some people would have been written like image.png itself over here. Yeah, this is also an alt text, but what happens is it's not conveying a proper meanings. So such kind of warnings can occur. So this is with respect to the warning cases. So there are three conditions like pass, fails, and warnings also. So I hope so that would have given some idea around
Yes,
around it.
thank you. Yeah.
Good. So WCAG, all these standards, right? When you looked into the Wave, they were able to link to those guidelines, and that will be really helpful for us to even map. And the next one, which we are gonna see, is like Google Lighthouse. So Google Lighthouse comes as an inbuilt with Chrome. So you can open the URL over here and click on inspect, and we might have done it for our XPath analyzers and other things, but if you would have looked at over here, there will be something called Lighthouse. So once you click on Lighthouse and once you click on generate report, what it does is it looks in terms of the performance also, and a responsive web app, like how it's going to be like responding with respect to when it comes to mobile. And there are some best practices which Google also talks about that has been linked. And like as I told you, it should have some keywords and other things. So those things will come under over here. And they also have the basic accessibility test cases and then the SEO. So once I click on it, first it will be rendered across in mobile and other things. And it will also be trying to render in 2G, 3G, and 4G, like how the device is getting coming up. So, and we'll be able to quickly see the report. And it will be scoring in the level of all these 5 parameters. So this is something quicker way which the developers are using to test it. So right now it's trying to load the web page on 2G, like, and you can see like they have given the alt text over here. Like, okay, it went off. Okay, thank God. They have an accessibility score of almost 90, and yeah, and you can see all the Arias that has been failed. So they have an Aria ID that are not unique. So somewhere they have written the main menu. So what is this? That means is right on the page. If you look at it, there'll be like two menus. One will be for your mobile and one will be for your web. So they have to. They would if they would have renamed it as like I mean web menu and a mobile menu, then this might have gone. So dot main dot nav was the wasn't unique. So that was a failing conditions over here. And there are some names and labels. Links do not have. Okay, I don't know where these links are present. Okay, there are some images and links that doesn't have an alt. So I look into the code. Okay, so this was again a condition. So as I told you, the alt text also has to be present. So this link wasn't without any alt text and other things. So that's the reason it has been marked as an error. So they should have been, I mean, given an alt text for this image saying like to know more about ATA's upcoming events, click here. Then it would have been read out by the tool. So everyone can again open in any website of your choice and then try to inspect, and then you'll find the Google Lighthouse over here, and you can generate a report and see it out. So one disadvantage over here is right, it won't be mapped directly with the WCAG guidelines. So that's a drawback, but it also works on a quick and an easier way. And Google Lighthouse also provides an API for continuous automation. So I'll be giving you the link at the end of session. So which you can try to use and use it for continuously automating like all the websites of your choice and see the report. So can we have a quick hands up uh, or something once you are done? Are you able to generate and see a report with Google Lighthouse? So with respect to testing, it's pretty easy to test it and get the analysis. But I mean, giving the fix, giving the suggestions, those things will be pretty more difficult. All good. Like, is everyone able to do it?
Guys, you can type yes, no.
It's completely fine.
Okay, we have one question, one or two questions now. First question is from Sanjeev. Any case or example where access, okay, sorry, my bad. We have already done this. Can we use ARIA description instead of alt for an image?
Yeah, definitely. So we can describe it by Aria described. So that will help us to, pass that condition. So the presence of Aria might be helpful in some of the tools, but an alt text, right, that goes with the browser. So let me show this again. Just 1 second. Sorry. Go. Let me test it again. Inspect. Go to Lighthouse. Okay. Just open it again. So I'll tell you like how the alt text will be helping. This particular logo has an alt text. If you'd have seen it on the 2D version, you might have seen. So it has a title and see, it has an alt equal to. So let me copy this also on Notepad. Copy element. So yeah. So this image has an alt text. So what's the difference between an alt text and an ARIA described or ARIA labeled, right? So ARIAs will be helpful when it comes to the screen reading softwares and other things. But the alt text, it will be helpful and it will be compatible with the browsers when it comes to low network and other things. So I'm not able to get this option today. I'll just try to generate the report, and at a particular point of time, right? Let me take a screenshot. You'll be able to see the image on the 2D version. Sorry, on the 2D. Sorry, 2G. The image won't be displayed, but the alt text will be displayed. But when it comes to an ARIA text, there are like very lesser chances. So let me. It's trying to still render. Yeah. See, I just took the screenshot and let me go to the paint. So all these attributes, right, will be helping us in different ways. So this way, if your contents are a bit more, if your network is a bit more lower, right, your website will be displayed in this particular fashion. So that's something is the usefulness of alt text. That will be compatible with your browser to keep it more
Right.
simple. And alt text
That's
for, yeah,
yeah.
and ARIA for
Thanks.
your screen reading. Yeah.
Thanks. There's another question. In any case or example where accessibility laws acted as change agent or forced governments or corporates to change policy or create projects for complying with the accessibility concerns?
Everyone. So the Sanjeev, like whatever examples which I've given over here, right? These companies, so these companies weren't accessible in the start, and right now at least they are a bit more accessible. So these laws, they don't force them, but the compliance and the penalties that are getting charged on these bigger companies, right? They make the smaller companies also afraid because of accessibility, and then they try to force them to go with it. But the law states like the law directly doesn't fine the people, but file a case against the company. But whenever a penalty occurs or whenever such incidents and cases occurs, by looking at these cases, then it forces the organization. So lots of organizations has turned more accessible right now because of these cases, by looking at these cases and other cases that are on the recent days too. Even British Airlines, they also have gotten a case. So again, when it comes to the laws, right? It's not about the accessibility law. There are data privacy laws also. So data privacy laws also again doesn't directly file a case against them. But whenever there is a data breach, then we go and sue them out. So that way it works. So I hope so I answered your question.
Yes. Any other question before we move ahead? Yes, Abhishek, you're trying to speak? Abhishek Jairaj?
Oh, sorry, by mistake, I have unmuted it. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay, then I guess we can move ahead, Karthik.
good. I think so. Like we are far ahead of our time. It's almost 5:30 right now. Anyway, good to go. If it's all good. Now, what we will try to test is for color contrast. Let me just show you this too. So there's a Chrome plugin which you need to install. I have given the URL on the chat, so you can install this Chrome plugin. This is quite really good one. And once you install, let me know if everyone has installed, and then I'll move ahead. Are able to install, so you have to do it on the normal window and not on the private one. So you'll be able to get this.
Hey, sorry,
Yeah.
Karthik. We have one observation from Jeevan. This is again related to Lighthouse. Before we move to this another topic, he is saying that he generated a report 5 times, but again, the accessibility percentage is different each time. Can you
Um,
throw some
yeah,
light over this part?
sure. And Jivan, can you unmute and then let us know like which website you tested it for? And is it gonna be a bit more static, or how was it? Jivan?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you too.
Yeah, thank you. This is again our GTR. So I just tried generating 5 times by closing this pop-up. So one time I got 89, 90. Now I got 97%. Thank you.
Okay, so what happens is, right, so the contents that is getting loaded during the scan, so let's say you have these many images, and when the page is getting also scanned, it considers all these things. So sometimes there are dynamic contents that will be coming up in the page that will be getting added. So based upon that, also you can see the scores getting changed and changing up and down. For example, whenever you try to open Amazon or Facebook inside your homepage, right? So what happens is like inside Facebook, the images that we post aren't accessible. So if people would have given the descriptions, it gets passed and it gets failed. So just I mean, we can look into the test cases which got passed or failed and then act accordingly, and maybe that will be a bit more helpful. So you can I mean it do happens well whenever there is a dynamic websites that gets changed because of the accessibility, what data is getting loaded into the browser. So that's the reason you found the change. And the change also, like, you can compare it once or twice and then take an action accordingly. So that will be something bit more a good way or good action to do it.
Perfect. Mm, let's take a pause for a moment. If you
Yeah.
have any questions for Lighthouse, we can ask right now. Then we would be changing the topic.
Yeah. Thanks, Steven.
Okay, Karthik, let us move ahead.
Okay, cool. I hope so. Like everyone are able to install this color contrast analyzer, and you should be able to see this icon on your bar, or else like you can click on this, and then this will list all the I mean plugins which you have installed, and you can find out the color contrast analyzer over here. So what happens is open any web page of your choice again, and then click on this color contrast analyzer, and you can just either capture the page region or the visible content or the whole page. So sorry for it. So let me capture the page region. So I'll just click on it, and what it does is I'm just gonna check all the color contrast for only this particular content, and then once I click on OK, it's, you can see the status. It's trying to do the analysis. Yep, and it's done. So whatever that you are able to see it on white, so that got passed. And if there is any missing contents, for example, over here there is one in this front that is not visible. So those are all the regions, I mean, that are again not blending with the background properly. So that's the reason. So when all these words are together, right? So I mean, for example, 292300, that might be creating a good impact. But when this one goes a bit more separate, the contrast with respect to that particular one and the background wasn't syncing up properly. So that's the reason it was able to show it out over there. So again, the color contrast will be, it's not only with respect to the I mean the color hexa values, it's also with respect to the brightness and illuminations and the font size. All these things will be tested, and these are all the ratios. So you can test it for the small fonts and then do a rescan, and you'll be able to see with respect to small fonts how it's performing. So it was almost same because the same things which we saw it. So you can change the test case over here, like for small non-bold text, and then medium bold and large non-bold text, and then small non-bold text, like it comes under AAA, and then the medium bold text. So these are all the four uh, conditions like which we'll be testing it across. So let me know if you are able to test it and observe the contents. Like, was it fine and was it good? So let me know if anyone is facing any challenge in doing it also.
Anyone wants to risk by sharing their screen?
I won't.
I think if someone can raise a hand, then we'll have to make them presenter. They won't be able to share it directly.
Yeah, we will. But the thing is that we have not got any response, even last time, even now.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay, good. All good. No, fine. No issues in it. Uh, so just raise your hands at least, like if you are able to do this scan. No screen sharing.
Even you can just type yes, no, at
I think
whatever your
Jeevan has
observation.
dropped some message. I'm not sure whether that has been checked or not.
That's checked. I guess Chintan, you raised your hand. Do you want to share the screen?
Well, I don't mind sharing. Basically, I
Okay.
raised it because you asked whether I'm able to do it. So
Okay.
just
Okay.
confirm that I am able to. It's just this plugin is taking a long time if the page is pretty long, and
Yeah.
if I click the scan full page, so I get a feeling that it is getting stuck midway, but not sure if someone else is facing the same issue.
You are presenter. In case if you can share your screen, it will be quite easy for Karthik to explain like whatever things you're saying right now.
Sure, sure. Just allow me a moment. I'll share it.
Cool. So when such errors occurs, right, it might be because of the, again, the page loading. So when you look for Facebook, so whenever you're trying to scroll down, so that kind of time also, right, capturing the entire page might be a problem. So right now, yeah, you're doing it for ATA.
Yeah, so here it seems it's stuck now in midway and unable to
Okay.
proceed. Yeah. Yeah, probably it will take a lot of time. But yeah, this is the problem that I faced, and I'll rather refresh and hold execution. Yeah, it's done. I mean, I can see anything.
Okay, was it done? Yeah, now you can see it. So it might take a
Yeah.
bit time, but you'll be able to check what are all the contents that got passed and filled over here.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll stop sharing my screen. And
Yeah. Thank you, Chintan. Thanks for it.
Thank you.
So I hope so everyone was able to do that. And let me jump with the next one. So this is a basic color contrast tester testing tool. This one you might have seen on the WCG also. They would have, sorry, Wave also. So they would have given the link hyperlinked over there inside. So what happens is, right, so you can see the standards, and you can, before, whenever you're gonna design your website itself, so that time also you can use this tool to choose your colors. For example, if your background color is gonna be I mean, if your foreground front color is gonna be like blue and your background color is gonna be white, then the color contrast ratio is pretty good and it's fine. So for example, if I'm trying to reduce it, black versus white, which I told you 21:1, then also it's fine. But if I'm just making it to 1:1, completely you can't see the words over here. So this way, if you want to set your, I mean, maybe your font as black, then you can just try to increase and see at a particular, what is the minimum basic criteria, like in which all the text are getting passed. Yeah, now it's getting passed and you can see it over here. So this way you can choose your color. uh, I mean, this helps also the developers to choose it, like what color, and I mean, what color they can keep it for their website and how it might be rendering. And as I told you, like when it comes to the input box, so right now it's black, and when I try to click on it, it changed its focus also. So such things also can be tested over here with some basic things. And when you want to test it continuously for your website in an automated fashion, then what you can do is you can write the scripts and then use this API which they have given it below. So what is your foreground color? What is your foreground color and your background color? And all you just need to do is add ambient API, and this will give you the results, like what was the ratio, and whether it got passed in AA and AA large and AAA and AAA large. So you can, with this response also, if you are planning to build any tools, then you can easily integrate and do the testings for it. All good. Like, are you guys able to try it? I mean, try to choose the right font and right background color.
We can give 1 or 2 more minutes.
Yeah, sure. Please. Yeah, please take your time, guys.
If you have any difficulties, you can just ask the question. Either you can raise hand or you can post your question.
Maybe we'll give them some time to try it
Yes.
out. And give me 1 minute, I'll be back. Just 1 second.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey guys, in case you want to break for coffee, tea, or any refreshment, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, I'm back. So, any questions, any observations, any findings? Let me know. We'll be happy to answer.
Guys, any questions? Any difficulty in whatever part which we were supposed to perform? I guess then we are good to go. We can move ahead.
Okay, cool. For the next session, okay, for the next session, like what we are trying to do is we'll try to find out all the test cases. I mean, look into the development aspects and try to find like what best fix which we can do. Because one way of testing it, right? So directly doing it manually and also understanding the pain points. So for example, when we talk about it, let's say a color blinded person, then I mean, you might have seen the 3D glasses, right? So the pretty old kind of a blue and a green kind of red kind of 3D glasses. So we used to just change that red color on both the sides, and if you just see your screen, right, so you won't be able to see all the red colors that aren't matching with that will be like as if you are testing you are a red color blinded person. So there are many things which we used to do it, and the same way, like when it comes using the screen recording tools and trying to test the website, like is the screen recording tool is it able to read out the contents or not. So that is one thing which we are going to do it next. So this might be a bit annoying for some people because of the sound and it repeats other things. Let me stop sharing my screen and then I'll share it again. Just 1 second. I don't know. Let me know if it's with voice from my system. I don't know, like I'm not getting that option. I hope so. It should be with voice. Cool. So there is an extension which I gave you called Chromevox. So let me know if everyone is able to install it. And the moment when you install, it will be popping out with some voice. Just 1 second. I had some test cases. So keep this section opened because it will be, I mean, it will be talking multiple things. It will be reading out all the test cases. And let me enable and let me know if you are able to.
Chromevox spoken feedback. Space. R. A.
We are able to hear it.
R.
Cool.
Add a GTR 2021 web view. Alert. Pound Adagr 2021 Global Testing Retreat 2021. Extensions.
So what happens is, right, it was trying to read out all the contents. So whenever it's trying to load it, right, it will try to read it. Let me go to a smaller page so that easier. Yeah, good.
Chromevox spoken feedback is ready.
So what happens is, right now it's set to this particular content, and
Menu open.
there are
Options.
options.
Chromevox options. Extensions. Alert. Tab. Chromevox options.
So
Chromevox options. Heading 1.
so what it does is like I mean, you can set your own shortcut keys, like how you want to navigate the screen reader. Imagine you are blind and you are just blindfolded, and then you need to read out all the contents on this page. For example, pressing on tab will move to the next element, and pressing on shift tab will move your focus towards your backside of the element. And you can set your navigations, like if you want to read word by word or character by characters, then also you can set all your I mean, what to say, shortcut keys. So that's a biggest speciality of the blind people, like which I can say. Whenever we need to test it, right, we need to remember multiple shortcut keys, like how you need to navigate and skip to main contents and other things. So that's the reason, like you can go and set your
Options. Menu item.
set your
2 of
shortcut
5.
keys over here.
Facebook.
So
Login or sign up. Tab.
so this is one something like I have logged in into Facebook.
Sections
Guys, I
of
guess we have to wait till 7:15
menu
because
collapsed with
we
sub
still have
menu open.
very few people. Okay.
Sorry.
So let's wait for 7:15, and if we still don't have enough people, then we have to cancel this session. Okay, let's see how many people join till 7:15. Okay.
What happened?
कोई join नहीं किया यार, क्या करें?
You can continue. I guess that
Yeah,
was by
sure.
mistake.
Okay, fine. So that was a test, like I mean, check if we are able to read out the contents. I mean, see if all the contents are read. I mean, maybe you can try to mute and then I mean, check if all the contents have been read it out. So if you look at over here, the password, the forget password link, let's see if it's able
Chromevox
to do
spoken
it.
feedback.
So-
Email address or phone number with hint email address or phone number.
So this
Edit
is
text main.
so this is something like Aria label. If you would have noticed, Facebook has given the Aria label over here.
Password with hint password.
So
Password edit text.
So this is something like they have given the Aria label as password. So they need to give a proper sentence that will be readed out. So I hope so Sachin was asking it. So what's the difference? Aria label. So Aria label is used by these screen recording softwares to speak out loud. So that's the reason.
Login. Forgotten password.
So
Link.
this is like reading the content and it says it's a link, and it should also say like whether it's going to be an internal link or an external link. So we'll do all those testing in a hands-on where we will be writing the test cases, and we'll use the screen recorder and see like how the contents are getting changed. So with that, I'll give a
Extensions.
pass over here, and I'll give you like 5 minutes, like where you can explore any of the pages, whichever you want, and then let me know. We'll be happy to answer.
I guess we can continue, Ed.
Okay, all good. So what we can do right now is, right, so you can create an HTML page, a simple one, like I hope so everyone will be fine in a bit of coding. Just for better understanding, we are doing this activity. So how to build and how to design your website so that it's going to be a bit more intuitive, and it's going to be a bit more accessible. So you can click on a notepad and then file, create, or else like rename it like test.html, and you'll have a HTML page that will be created. So what we are going to do is, let me open it on notepad, and let me open it on my browser, so that the way I mean the accessible screen reading software is also going to work, right? So we are going to see it over here. So first, any website, right? So let's say like we have to give HTML and lang equal to English. So this is one test case which we saw it. So even if it's not on English, then by default, Chromevox comes on English. And then we have a head in the HTML. So this is gonna talk about the head section. Your head section will be having all the CSS styles and other things, and also the title. So if your title, let me go with the first case. If your title is not mentioned, then it will be telling with the file name. So I have kept my head blank. And then let me open my body, each body, and then I'm just gonna close the page body. And then let me close my HTML. So this is the basic syntax which we write it with the HTML code, and I'm not gonna talk about bit more with all the JavaScripts and other things. Some basic things for which we'll be writing the test cases, and we'll be checking with the screen reader how the screen reader is performing for better understanding. So I just have written over here like hello world. So I'm just saving it. And let me switch to my test page. I'm enabling my screen reader.
Test.html, tab.
See?
Test.html. Google Chrome. Window. Hello world.
See, it was telling you test.html. So by default, it takes your file name over here. But if I just write title something, so whenever the screen reading software starts, it starts with your page title. So title, I'm saying like this is a test page, and then slash title. So this is a so this will be helpful really for the blind people.
This is a test page. Hello world.
So
hello world.
Yeah. So as you heard this time, it said like it read the title properly. Like this is a test page. So this, as I told you, like this will be helpful on the tab switches and other things. And then it read the content inside. Pretty good. And now let's try to add a menu over here. So let's start with the menu. So I mean, if you guys want, like you can code with me, or else if you want, wherever, feel free to ask for a pass. I'll be happy to wait over there. So I'm just creating a div section, and let me create a container. And this is gonna be my menu. So again, let me close my div. Down below. So I'm just again declaring this as my head section. Header. Just to note it down, like this is my menu, and I'll show you like right now what's gonna happen. So first, let's add the logo. So image, sassy, and I have something called logo.png. So you can save any image, whichever you want, and then save it on the same folder, and you'll be able to open it. So let's see, logo.png and slash img. So what happens is, as I told you last time, this is not gonna, this will be displaying the
This is a
logo.
test page. Logo image. Header.
Okay, img.png. So, okay, one more test case, which you can see over here is only a normal image. And if I would have given an alt text, that image would have been shown over there. And I named the image but wrongly. So let me do it one more time. This image.png. See over here.
This is a test page. IMG image. Header. Search tabs. File. Search tabs. File. Address and search bar. Search tabs. Button. As pop-up. Expanded.
So when it reads, it won't say like there is an image, but when I click over
IMG
there,
image.
it says it's an IMG image. So since it doesn't have any content over here, it just says like IMG image. So whatever source that has been written. So if I say give over here an alt text equal to this is a company logo. So this is how your alt text is going to help over here. And yeah, sure, you can give Aria label or Aria described by. That also will be read out. I'm just going to refresh it and you'll be able to see like this is a company logo.
This is a test page. Company logo. Header. Search tabs. Search tabs. File. Button.
We have given over here on the alt text has been read out. Pretty good right now. And now let me try to add my options. Okay, so let me add some link UL. So I'm just creating a list over here /UL and has an li in it. So it's nothing but a list over here. And what can I do? Yeah, I can create an anchor tag in it. Href. I'm just making it as an hash so that you'll be able to listen to it. Like it reads the hash as an internal link. So let's create for ATA itself about ATA and /a and then /li. So I'm creating 3 options. GTR contact. So what happens over here if I just go on the page?
This is a test page. Company logo. List with 3 items. About ATA. Internal link list item.
So again, we should not be using I mean, what to say? We should be using proper abbreviations. It read out ATA as ATA.
About GTR.
Okay, this was pretty good.
Internal link list item.
It said like it's an internal linked list item if you would have heard it. And
contact. Internal link list item.
So whenever you're trying to internally link it within your page, right, we can make it with a hash and then that will be able to take you to the internal one and note it clearly. So this, if I'm refreshing it one more time just for your understanding.
What this is a test page. Company logo.
So it's a company logo. Now I'm trying to give a tab and it will say it's a list, okay, but not as a menu.
List with 3 items. About ATA. Internal link list item.
Yeah, so right now it said like list with 3 items. That's it. But we need to inform the persons it's gonna be what to say. It's a menu, right? It's a navigation, right? So what we can say over here, rule equal to navigation. So now when I refresh and you'll hear that it's a navigation menu.
What this is a test page. Company logo. Navigation with 3 items. About ATA. Internal link list item.
Yeah, so now you heard this as a navigation. So whatever role, whether you're going to set it as an alert or all those things, right? You can show it over here so that it reads out and it conveys the proper information and again. So as many details we can add it over here. So let me do one more thing. Kind of. I mean, I'm just trying to add as many as test cases. So let me keep a button, and I'm just gonna make this button to disabled, and this is a disabled. I mean, you can say like click on. I mean, imagine there is an agree terms and conditions on top. Click on the terms and conditions. Okay, maybe I'll click this itself. Submit. So what happens is, like, many times you might have seen like there is an input checkbox, and then once you tick that checkbox, right, this button will get enabled. But those things again won't be caught on the screen reading software. So let me show
This
it
is a
here.
test page.
So
Company logo.
when I move from contact to hello world, submit won't be read out. So I'm just doing it.
About contact. Internal link list item. Exited navigation with 3 items. Button. Search file. Button. Has pop-up. Expanded. View site company logo about ADA about GTR contact submit hello world.
Yeah, so it wasn't able to get over there. So what we have to do is, right, wherever we want to make it to a describe, we can use Aria over there, and then Aria hyphen label. So this will say like this content will be read out. Like click on the terms and conditions to submit. So still it's on the disabled state, but this will be helping us over here, and we can also define the roles like this is in this is in a disabled state, and that will also help over here. So I'm just removing. Okay, let it be. So
This is a test page. Navigation with 3 contact. Exited navigation. Search tabs. Button.
just one second. Sorry for it. This has been gone into it.
This is a test page. Navigation about contact. Exited header navigate.
Sorry, my mistake.
But this is a test page. About contact. Search tabs. File. About ADA. Contact. Internal link list item.
Okay, it wasn't able to
Search
get
tabs.
it again.
File. Exited header navigation with 3 items. Company logo about ADA about GTR contact. Click on the term and conditions to submit hello world.
Huh, okay. Now it read. I mean, click on the conditions to submit hello world. So
this is a test page. Company logo. Navigation with 3 items. About contact. Search tabs. Button. File. About GTR. Internal link list item.
Yeah, so it read it once. I don't know.
Search tabs. Button. This pop up. About ADA. Internal link list item.
Let me cut all these things. I don't know. It's not able to get into it.
Window. This is a test page. Click on the term and conditions to submit. Button disabled.
Yeah, now you would have heard it like button disabled, and click on this terms and conditions. I don't know, it wasn't able to get down below it, so that's the reason. So this way it helps us to I mean it helps the again the screen reading software in a bit more easier way. And let me cut this, and then I'll also cut this, so that let me keep it a bit more. Okay, so you can ask about, let me do one more example. So let's say we have an alert. So let me create a div. I showed you on the example. Plus equal to alert. And I'm just even giving the role as alert. And I'm saying, yeah, let me say hello world inside it. So imagine, I mean, this is a content and you won't be seeing it as an alert, but just to show you like how it looks. So an alert will have a close button. So I'm just creating a button that equal to button. And so have text and button. Good. So if I read this right, it will say like this is an alert, and the message is hello world, and then it will say button X. So that's the
Alert.
drawback.
This is a test page. Hello World X. Alert. Navigation with 3 items. About ATA. Internal link list item. About contact. Internal link list item. Alert. X. Button.
So it said alert with X button. So it wasn't able to again read it properly. So if I say over here, Aria hyphen label equal to close, then next time. Let's see.
Alert. This is a test page. Hello World close. Alert. Company logo.
You might have heard this time it said like hello world close. So this way we'll be able to provide better informations, and it reads the screen reading software, right? It reads all the contents. So right now you might ask me like, Karthik, like I want some contents that need not be read via the screen reading software because it might be pretty big, or mathematics formulas and other things. So I want some contents to be skipped by the screen reading software. Then what we can do it is we can say, like for example over here, let me break. So I'll say a para tag. This content will be read slash.
So Karthik, I have a question meanwhile while you are just going through this exercise. So what is the significance of this exercise, like while we are creating this HTML and while we are testing it on this Chrome tool?
So this is gonna be helpful whenever you're gonna test for the accessibility with the screen reading software, right? So you can know like where the failure has occurred and how to improve it also. So for example, this one, when I wrote role equal to navigation, right? It told it's a navigation menu, but without that also, oh sorry, it's getting echoed. So without that also, like it's gonna work properly. But as a testers, like we need to know what are all the things that needs to be added in the HTML, and where all the places the labels has to be present. So these things sometimes it might be showing in alerts, but we need to know like how to handle it, and what are all the things that a screen reading software can read out and should not read out. Are those data handled properly? So this will be the greatest help and the significance while testing it. So the screen reading software will be testing it, I mean, will be reading out, but we don't know like why it didn't read out a particular content. because the Aria label might be missing. So for example, it was been reading it out as an X, and when I mentioned Aria label as a close, it was reading it out like an Aria label as a close. So this helps in terms of an intuitive design perspective also, and helps us the tester to understand what betterment can be added and where can be added and how it can be added. I
Okay.
hope so that answered your
Okay.
question.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe let me close with this content. So
One more question. Right now we are doing this exercise with HTML, but in a real time we have more complex pages like Angular or Reactive, mostly with a JavaScript imbibed into it. Okay, so what should be our approach while performing accessibility on those websites?
okay, a pretty good question. So when it comes to Angular or React or Vue or any other Bootstrap-based websites, right? So what happens is, so right now, whatever content which I'm gonna see it over here, this is the content. So this, all these kind of test cases are related to the HTML tags and not to the CSS and the JavaScript, much more. So your Angular. This one React and all those things, right? It works with your JavaScript, and it adds more and more color and the decorations to it. So those things will come under the perceivable test cases, where you'll be testing for the displays and the designs and other things. So that's the only place where you'll be looking when it comes to with all the colors and other things, like testing for the color contrast ratios and those things. But the basic, all the test cases will be working with Aria label with normal HTML syntax. So you need to know how a what to say alert works, and how a normal notification and collapse and radio buttons and all those things. Then it will be something all in good, all well and good.
Okay.
So right now, what we are trying to do over here is, yeah, I forgot. So I want this first content to be read, and I want this content to be read by the screen reader, but I don't want this content. This content should not be read by the screen reader. So what I can do is, like, there is an ARIA label, like we have hidden. So hidden is an attribute which uh, if we make something hidden on the website, right? So that won't be seen on the, that won't be displayed. So similarly, if you set an ARIA attribute to hidden equal to true, then that particular segment alone won't be readed. Let me cut this for time being. So you can see this one will be read. This one is just for better understanding. Content one, content two won't be read. So if you're, I mean, when you're testing it, and if you find, uh, I mean, particular sentences, right, that are not coming out properly, for example, mathematical equations or some things like which you need to skip it for the screen reading software, then you can, I mean, there's a defect over there or a suggestion to your developers, set this ARIA hidden equal to true for this particular content. It's not working properly on the screen reader. So that's the one. So let me refresh it.
This is a test page. Content 1. This content will be read. Search tabs. File. Search tabs. Button. Content 3. This content will be also read.
So it was able to read one and then the three, but it won't be able to read the two. I'm just trying to go back to the previous
Address
content.
and search bar. Search tabs. Address and search bar.
So
Content 1. This content will be read. Content 3. This content will be also read.
so now it said like content one, this will this content will be read. Content three, this content will be also read, but it skipped that inner content. So this is the way which you'll be playing with the ARIA label. And any questions on this, like why are we doing this? And if anyone would like to take up this code as a sample example, let me, yeah. So Any questions on this? Because I thought we'll code it together, but I just made the code and then showed it to you like a demo. So
what is the significance of this Aria hidden equal to true?
this won't be read by the screen reader.
Okay.
So if you want to skip some contents, like I mean, when you're testing the page with the screen reading software and you found a particular content is not getting read properly by the screen reading software, then you can set like Aria hidden content equal to true. Then this won't be read by the screen reading software. It cannot be read by the screen reading software. It will be skipped to the next
Okay.
element. So you can skip note particular contents, and if you want to skip, then you can give it like this.
Okay.
So when I was reading it, I mean, when the screen reading was reading it was reading this, and it was reading this, but not this. Content 2 wasn't read over there. So this is the way it helps us to design also.
Fine. Got it. Any
Any other
questions?
questions?
Yeah. I guess we do have. No. So I'm interested from automation point of view. If we want to consider like maybe just take an example of Selenium itself, right? What all factors do I need to keep in mind either in my test script or in my framework, which will provide appropriate coverage from accessibility point of view?
Web Content Accessibility
Sorry
Guidelines,
for it.
WCAG. Extensions.
So what in terms of coverage, which you can choose it, right? So the
Right.
minimum guidelines, minimum test cases which you need to cover is all the level A test cases. So you have to make sure you cover minimum all the level A test cases should be passed. So you can see it down below, like what are all the level A test cases and other things, uh, like whether its level and its content. So they have given lots of criterias inside this. So when it comes to non-text, I just told you about the image and other things. When it comes to there are separate test cases for captcha and all these things. So only few of the test cases can be automated and rest has to be done manually. It's up to the client and the organizations which they can take it further. But for a website to be minimum accessible, the level A test cases has to be completed.
Okay. And so this is the list of 68 test cases, right, which you're showing right now?
Completely.
Okay. Okay.
So you
Okay.
can find all the links, descriptions, and everything over here. So I have shared it on the chat too, so you can find it a bit more detail, like what needs to be tested and other things.
Right. We have a question from Chintan, I guess. Chintan, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I support what Karthikeyan suggested regarding your question related to integrating
Okay.
Selenium scripts with the automation. So we have worked on this area as well, and we have successfully been able to integrate it with X tool, which is again by DQ.
Yeah.
So this integrates well, but again, as Karthikeyan suggested, it cannot be automated 100%. So what we see is around 30% coverage we can see. Again, this is based on the data I've read on the web, but you cannot 100% automate the accessibility part.
That's a good point.
True. And I have thanks, Chintan, for adding more points on it. So I was about to also talk about the Axe tool on the next slide, upcoming slides. So when you're trying to do the automation perspective in your organization. So before I move on, like any other questions with this? Any other thoughts?
We can proceed. And again, just a reminder, we have around 25 minutes left with us.
Super. I think so. I need almost another 10 minutes or some time. So
Great.
let me go with PPT. So right now, I mean, I just think like you got some understanding about and some importance about the accessibility. And you might be asking like Karthik, like if I want to implement accessibility in my organization, what you need to do. So there are like few standards and few points like that needs to be considered. So it comes as a uh, how to say it, like it comes as a part of your activity, and sometimes it comes as a part of your role itself. So those things we'll be looking into it, and then I'll just give you some few suggestions and tools. So whenever we are trying to do accessibility, right, there are lots of myths which we used to hear. And the first one is like, is it more expensive? Yes, of course it's expensive, but when you compare with the uh, I mean, what to say, the fine that is gonna getting imposed, right? So, if you have a website that is inaccessible, it's fine. The law is not gonna fine you directly. If some disabled person is gonna use your website, and if you are getting caught, right, then what you need to do is you have to make a fine and also fix those errors. So that makes it even more bit more costlier. So whenever you are trying to do accessibility testing, do try to invest some budget for it, so that you I mean, you are in a thought process of like, it's always precaution is better than cure, right? So that's the reason. And the second one is like converting an inaccessible website to an accessible one is a time consuming one. uh, True. Chintan was also saying it, right? I mean, we aren't able to, or I mean, automate all the test cases. There are like lots of manual test cases that needs to be done, but we can prioritize our basic needs. Like, I want all the level A test cases, then that can be run with these kind of tools like Google Lighthouse, and then other Axe tool and other things, and then we can achieve as much as coverage as possible. But prioritize your test cases. Like when it comes to Netflix, then they need to look into more of audio based and video based contents, like if their videos are providing captions and all those things. So there is a srt file something, so that has your caption. So you can check on automatically open the URL and check if that file is present, then your captions are present. But the other test case, like, is the captions and the video are syncing, so that needs to be done manually. So you can prioritize some of the test cases based upon your client and go ahead with it. And the myth three is like accessibility is plain and boring. No, not at all. Like accessibility doesn't mean the website should be only with contents. You can build it on React. You can build it on whatever Angular, whatever framework which you wanted it. But what accessibility is suggesting is the data should be the data and the content should be accessible for all. So adding Aria labels and other things, yeah, of course, the developers might be feeling a bit more work, but it helps us in many aspects. And when you say like accessibility testing is for blind and disabled people, no, it's not at all. Software is used by all, and hence it needs to be tested for all users in all the standpoint. And you need to also consider whenever you're just testing in terms of blind and a disabled person, right? That also helps the normal people with a wider group of audience, like when it comes to the SEO and other things. So do try to perform accessibility testing. And how do you start it? Is like you have to initiate the plan, and of course build the enthusiasm in your team, like, yes, we are going to test for accessibility and do something for our society. So that aspect of thinking mindset should be there, and you should have a plan, like what's the goal and how is the environment, how we are going to test it. And then your implementation, like what tools are you going to test it, uh, I mean, with which tools you are going to test it, because that also plays a major role, because different tools are giving different coverages. So that's the reason you need to choose the right set of tools and other things. And once you're done, also you need to sustain that accessibility. So whenever there is a release coming up next to next, right, we need to make sure we test accessibility for all the release. And it's not a one-time activity, it should be like a continuous one. until the website is present on the website on the web. So when it comes to the activities which you can do is like explore your current environment in your organization, look at the clients, especially your foreign clients. Are they doing any accessible testing or not? And then you can pitch in and try to get more projects for them, and then set an objective and try allocating some resource, especially for accessibility testing. That will be really a great help, because the pain point of an accessibility tester is need to know all the test cases, which is not that easy, and gather support and also, raise awareness. Like you can blackmail your clients, to be frank, in two ways. One is make your website accessible, or else the second way is if you don't make your website accessible, you will be getting fined. And we can also ask some of our specially able person, make a fine against them also. Just kidding. So those things, those such kind of awareness, like what might be the impact if you don't if our client doesn't do the accessibility testing right, we have to explain the impact and create an awareness among it. And every organization should have accessibility policies also, like what are all the things they are going to manage and deliver on the accessibility digital contents. And accessibility, same way with accessibility framework and statements also. So these are all the some things which that needs to be chosen. And whenever you talk about an accessibility team, like you should have a product manager and a user research people, like ensure that people with the right uh, especially able people are included in the user personas. So you need to do lots of user research, like can invite the blind persons and then try to use a screen recorder and get the usability report, like how they are performing and other things, and get their feedback and try to improve your websites. And should consist of a designer and a graphic designers for other things, and of course a developer and a QA to get it. So as a team, you should be having these things to get it delivered properly. And to start with it, you need to make sure whatever content which you are posting, right, that needs to be accessible. And you should also prioritize your work, like which issue is most likely to impact the users, and what are the frequency of the issues that might occur on it. And I would also suggest, like every tools, right, every websites, right, for example, when it comes to social medias also, Facebook, whenever you're trying to update your images, even on LinkedIn's, whenever you're trying to put the post, right, there is an alt text option provided over there. You can go to your Facebook, and whenever you're posting it, there is an option called edit. Inside the edit, you'll be able to find the alt text over there. So you can mention the alt text over there and make your image more accessible for the specially able people and help us in a better way. So whatever content which at least you are creating it, right, just to make sure you try to add the accessibility flavor to it, and that will be a really great help. And with that, the tools and recommendations, to be frank, WCAG, the W3C has listed all the tools. There are like different tools in the market. So all the tools with their use and their purpose, all the things has been, what to say, defined and shown over there on the first URL. So you can go to that URL to check all the list of tools. And if you're using Node as your automation tool, Node with Selenium and other things, then you can go for PA11Y framework. So that is based on Node, and it gives also a pretty good report. And if you want, Lighthouse also gives the API. So you can hit that Google Lighthouse URL, and you can just download the package, and you can just say like Lighthouse and your URL, and it will give you all the results. So you can automate it easily with Lighthouse also. And finally, like as Sachin was also saying, like Axe is also a pretty good tool, and Axe also comes with a Python based libraries. So if you want to automate with your Selenium, then you can go with the Python Axe Selenium based framework also. So yeah, that's it with that. Me over there, and this is my LinkedIn profile. You can contact me anytime. I hope so, like I'm on time and then completed it. Hope so you guys enjoyed the session. Enjoyed it.
Yes, Karthik. For a moment, can you please turn on your video so that we can see you?
Oh, okay. Sorry for it. I might be looking a bit horrible, but anyway,
That's
let
fine.
me. You can't share your video when you're Okay, I have to stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's me. Hey, still I'm not able to see. Yeah.
Hey, cool. Let
So
me
hi
take
everyone.
final screenshot. Fine. So it was
Yeah.
wonderful session, like really, really nice.
Thank you so much for it.
So give me a moment. Let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yeah.
Um, so Karthikeyan, thank you for the wonderful lab session. This was a very off the track topic. We have been reading about accessibility testing, but I guess we never had any what you can say encouragement to deep dive into it, not the purpose. Though we were looking at many other aspects of the technology, maybe the front end, the back end, the databases, automation, integrating with the pipelines and everything. But again, with this session, we really have insight like what the standards are, what are country specific standards. How do we look into those standards? What should we consider while performing an accessibility testing? Apart from these standards, you also walked us through tools very well. So a few of the tools which I really liked was the Wave, the Chrome plugin, a Lighthouse plugin. These are really nice tools. I really loved it personally while I was trying it by myself. Thank you for wonderful lab session once again. Be in touch, guys. I guess if you have any feedback, please do share your feedback. The link is already provided before you. And thank you.